Sanji versus Lee, alright then. Not totally hyped, but I can dig it. Honestly, I've never consumed any One Piece media, so I'm not totally sure on whether I can really say Lee is a better character, but I do prefer him. I've really not had much exposure to One Piece. There's a lot of it, and Sanji is one of the characters that I didn't really know terribly well from the series. Like, for the most part, the only characters I'm really aware of are, like, Luffy and Zoro, and I guess technically Ace because of Death Battle, but it's really just those two that I'm aware of and care about at all. But that's partially because Zoro's just really fucking cool. I mean, I've never seen One Piece, but just one look at him, he looks really cool. Lee, meanwhile, is on that small list of Naruto characters that I actually really like. Right there with Kakashi, Madara, Might Guy, Jiraiya, Gaara, I don't mind Shikamaru, Obito, Neji? I don't know. Anyway, so who do I think will win this fight? Well, right now I'm fairly certain Sanji would. But it depends on how you approach 8 Gates Lee. You see, what makes this kind of different to most death battles is that we know for a fact that Rock Lee has access to the 8th Gates, he's outright stated it, but we also don't know how strong he is, and we have never seen him use it. And we don't have any reason to scale its power to, like, Might Guy's 8th Gate, just because they're the same technique. I wouldn't scale Super Saiyan Bardock to Super Saiyan Goku just because they're the same Super Saiyan form. Just because two characters have the same form and technique does not necessarily mean they're equal in power. But I don't know what the general consensus on this is. To my knowledge, watching a bunch of people far more knowledgeable than myself discuss this, both of these characters could potentially have even stats. Both are at least country level, and have FTL scaling and calcs. Allegedly, I don't scale either series, I'm just going off the general consensus amongst people who know something. FTL is generally where they're placed, but I've also seen Sanji put out much higher speeds. There was recently like this 50 times the speed of light calculation for One Piece, and if it's legitimate, then Sanji's way faster than Lee, because I don't think Lee scales to any of the ridiculous feats that I've seen people throw around, like MFTL, millions of C Obito. I don't know if Lee would scale to that, I'm fairly certain he wouldn't. And to my knowledge, Sanji just edges out against base Rock Lee, and even could beat Lee after he opens some of his gates. However, because it's Death Battle, I don't think they're going to put them at country level in the episode. Now, the research probably would have them at country and above, but the episode most likely won't. My assumption, and I'm very open to being proven wrong by Death Battle, is that they'll put Lee's AP, at least base form, around the level of the Megaton Meteor feat from Naruto the Last, and Sanji will likely be scaled to Zoro and Pika's AP, and those two can both get around the same Megaton level, just higher in Megatons. Both of them would be around mountain level, and below how strong they really are, but most convenient for a casual audience to understand how powerful they are. But I feel like Sanji will probably win the episode, but it kind of goes out the window if they use 8th Gate Lee and scale his 8th Gate to Guy. I definitely don't think Might Guy level Rock Lee would lose to Sanji. In fact, they would thus scale Rock Lee to the multi-continental Naruto feat that they love to use so much. If they didn't use that, I'm fairly certain that Lee would win. I don't think the big multi-continental things that Sanji might scale to would really compare to that massive hole. Though I don't know if they'd be willing to put Lee above Kakashi. I mean, no, they totally would. But it'd be very funky to see Lee with this number that's like so much higher than Kakashi, which is thus even higher than fucking... I'm fairly certain the calc for Naruto's moon thing was higher than Obi-Wan Kenobi's fucking bullshit Kip Durant scaling. There are going to be lots of people debunking this episode because of them using lower end feats, while completely oblivious to how the writing of Death Battle almost never reflects the actual research, and they avoid using all the complex scaling that these debunkers spend 40 minutes explaining because it's just boring to listen to, not interesting to a casual audience, and would just sort of extend the video's length too far. I like longer episodes, but when they hit the 40-minute mark, it needs to be because the characters have a lot to talk about, and a lot goes into determining the winner, and it's more than just a stat thing, and not 40 minutes of them explaining all these feats that Rock Lee and Vinsmoke Sanji scale to, and so on. Like Naruto vs Ichigo had a fairly lengthy conclusion, and honestly, I quite liked it, even though apparently it also doesn't quite reflect the research. Apparently both of them get significantly higher, I've heard, than where they put both of them, but for the most part, it's fine, right? Like, I'm not terribly bothered. Honestly, I'm just very glad that episode put a difference between movement speed and reaction speed. That's amazing. But yes, to my knowledge, Sanji most likely wins if they don't scale 8th Gate Lee to 8th Gate Might Guy, but will most likely lose if they do. And I want to be clear, this is not a debate on whether or not they should use 8th Gate Lee, because I do understand arguments on both sides. We've never seen Lee use it, Lee has no feats with it, we have no idea where it scales, we can't inherently say it scales to the technique used by Guy, any more than we can say Jiraiya's Sage Mode Rasengan scales to Naruto's Sage Mode Rasengan. But at the same time, we know for a fact that Lee can use this technique, Death Battle likes to use characters at their peak, and it would lead to a good dramatic moment for the animation. It is up to you how viable it is to use. I'm not going to address the validity of it, just that I think if it is used, Lee probably will win. Who do I think should win? I mean, I don't know either character well enough, I just know that Lee is a punchy smacky guy with no hacks pretty much, and Sanji's kick guy with fire who likes to cook. Honestly, I'm very hopeful this is not going to be a puppet animation, and they'll just accept that JUS sprites can easily be used to make a good animation. Naruto vs Ichigo's animation is actually really nice, and like, that uses JUS, I think it's nice. There's too much stigma for JUS sprites, they're not that bad guys, come on. I really do hope in the fight we get some really badass Lotus moments. I mean, Lee's fight with Garo is arguably one of the most iconic fights in all of Naruto, and also one of the best that I've seen. Lee also completely bodied Sasuke in their first fight, which is epic. Sanji, I'm willing to bet, is a really cool character as well. I can only assume, though, that there's going to be a really stupid reason for their fighting, probably having to do with food or something. I mean, they could do something stupid like that, or they could just do something boring like them walking into a tournament or an exam or some shit. Now, what do I think of Batgirl vs Spider-Gwen? Well, the analysis was good. I didn't laugh at any of the jokes, but I can identify that some of them were actually well written. I thought it had probably the best dummy skit that we've had, and the editing was legitimately fantastic. Red Hood vs Winter Soldier and Batgirl vs Spider-Gwen have better editing than Wally West vs Archie Sonic, and I don't know how I feel about that. Aside from that, there's the animation, which was... let's not mince words, the animation was shit. And I hate saying it, because I really like Obi-Wan Kenobi vs Kakashi, and while I didn't find Dracula vs Ganondorf nearly as good as everyone else did, I can't deny that Dracula vs Ganondorf not only has it grown on me a bit, but it does have some really good moments in it. Dracula's expressions are very fun to watch, the death is fantastic, and the Ganon transformation is simply stunning, and I love this design for Ganon, by far the best Ganon design. I'm not a fan of the Dracula monster design they went with, but that's understandable because of the limits they were working with. This, however, I mean, it starts with She-Ra vs Wonder Woman, that should tell you everything. Everything is so janky. Batgirl's walk at the start looks jank as hell. Batgirl's walk at the start looks like it came straight out of Team America World Police. Batgirl's walk at the start was Baby's first walk cycle. Not to mention that her model is just hideous. Her face looks like it's made of pure leather. It looks no different to those Batman and Robin models from Death Race. I mean, Jesus Christ. The episode seems really laggy too, and at first I thought it was an internet thing, but after getting the episode to watch offline from 3 different sources, it still lags at points. This entire segment after the coin breaks the 180 rule a million times. The sound design is awful. Batgirl has this slow as hell setup for a stupid kick that really makes no sense. And like the sound, it's like Batgirl's hitting her with a soft pillow. But seriously, Batgirl puts a Batarang on Spider-Gwen and jumps away without Spider-Gwen doing anything. Then Batgirl throws 2 Batarangs slightly to the right of Spider-Gwen, which should explode Gwen to her left and forward, but instead explodes her straight forward, like she should be going over there, but she goes straight towards the camera. And then there's this slow-ass scene of Batgirl going up and softly kicking Gwen. Gwen goes invisible, and then, like, Batgirl throws the Batarangs at where she was and they hit the ground. It's the funniest shit ever. Like, maybe if Batgirl threw them immediately after it happened, as if like, oh shit, she's gone invisible. Phew! Like, the second she vanished. But she has 3 seconds to realize Gwen isn't there. Not to mention that Gwen uses her invisibility one whole time, and that's it. Gwen then yanks Barbara up, but her string is completely static. She's completely moving static, while Batgirl is flying up dramatically in the next shot, and then rips the spider silk with her hands. Fucking not even Hulk can do that half the time. It's something that's generally cut, but she just pulls it apart with her raw strength. Jesus Christ, Batgirl's stronger than the Hulk. Spider-Gwen's eyes are horrifying with the black bit that goes over when she changes expressions. And like, why doesn't she just throw the Batarang back? This choreography makes no sense. This rock hits Batgirl and holy shit, that's a geyser of blood. And it's never brought up again. There's no visible wound, the bleeding miraculously stops, and I'm really not a fan of how these two look when they jump in front of the aspect ratio border. It just looks bad to me. Just like how it looked bad with the effects from All Might vs. Might Guy going over the border, if you're gonna fuck with the aspect ratio, do it like fucking Chivalry of a Failed Knight, where it gets destroyed by Raikiri. That's a cool effect. You can tell that this Batarang is never in Spider-Gwen's hand too. Like, wow, that is a failure. Spider-Gwen then hits Barbara with 2 webs. Let's look at this. The first one sticks her hand to her thigh so she can't use it. Okay, you know what? That makes sense. Disable her ability to throw more of her weapons. Good one. The other hits her leg, the inside of her calf, and suddenly she falls over. She's no longer webbed to herself. Why is she moving super weak? It's not like that was a good, it looked like Spider-Gwen hit her so hard that it damaged her implant. No, she just shoots her in the leg and there's no impact. In fact, getting hit with 2 webs with no impact when they hit her were the only things that happened since she threw those 3 Batarangs. Why is she moving so weakly? Did she pull a muscle throwing them so stupidly? Is she like a fucking cricket player throwing a ball at 1,000,000 miles per hour and then pulling a goddamn hammy? And then the kill has this stupid looking face, and I laughed so loud when I watched this at 5 AM. I have no idea how the neighborhood wasn't woken up. Nothing happens in this animation. There's janky and shit looking close quarters combat, awful looking Batarang throwing, and pretty much nothing else. The choreography is so uninspired, but at the same time, can I really blame them? I can't blame the animators, storyboarders, writers, because they were tasked with this matchup. What were they going to do? Batgirl's got Batarangs, grappling hook, and sticks. Spider-Gwen's got webs, spider sense, claws, invisibility, turning into spiders. There really wasn't much to make of that. So I can't even blame anyone. There's no one to blame except, I guess you could blame Ben Singer for choosing this fucking matchup. They also claim this was close. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, the reason it's close is because Batgirl could take down Gwen with sound and fire, right? How would she know to do that? Like, okay, for a comparison, Nightwing taking advantage of Daredevil's weakness to sound has a logical through line. Now, let's ignore whether or not Nightwing versus Daredevil was correct, or even good. Nightwing is a skilled enough fighter to be able to tell that Daredevil fights without sight. Daredevil has a very specific way of fighting, and he doesn't really seem to use his eyes. It's very obvious if you watch how he fights. Nightwing's skilled enough to pick up on that. That makes sense. Logically, this would extrapolate to Daredevil having very sensitive senses. Outside of sight, of course, because he doesn't have that. Thus, Nightwing could use his sonic wingding to exploit Daredevil's sensitive hearing. That makes sense. If Daredevil did not have sensitive hearing, and sound was not a weakness of his, or he had the sonic dampeners from the comics, then okay. It would still be something that Nightwing would logically do, even if it wouldn't work. And that's how you know that that weakness does play a part. However, Batgirl has to realize that Gwen has a symbiote on, and know what a symbiote is, and know what it's weak to be able to exploit it. Can she figure that out, or just happen to throw the fire and sonic Batarangs before Gwen gets the one punch on her that she needs to kill her? No. There are almost no situations in which fucking Barbara is going to either figure out what Spider-Gwen's weakness is, or just happen to throw the right Batarang at the right time before Gwen hits her and just splatters her goddamn brains. Gwen only needs one punch. At best, she's going to cripple Batgirl. At worst, she's going to spread Batgirl's brains halfway down the United States of America. Just close? This one? Close. So yeah, bad episode. Didn't like it. I will give it credit for a well-edited analysis, but the actual bringing up stats thing doesn't really happen. The analysis, I thought some of the jokes were good and the editing was nice, but beyond that, it just sort of was boring. Because these characters aren't, okay, they're interesting characters, but it wasn't really like they would, I don't know, I wasn't enthralled by it. I'll say the conclusion's better than Red Hood vs. Winter Soldier though, but, you know, that has the advantage of having a really fucking good fight.
Huh. Well, that was... God, you're so annoying! All of you keep going on and on about nothing!